Good afternoon. I greet you this afternoon with the greetings of respect. Thank you for taking this time to join this mindful community, this day of opportunities, possibilities, miracles, and choices. As always, you have many choices of where you could be at this moment or whether you even choose to listen to this piece. So I thank you for doing that. So I'd like to begin by thanking you also for those who shared with me your comments, your thoughts from our last piece. How did it go with you as far as generating some conversation and communicating with other people about the answer blowing in the wind, not just accepting things as being is what it is, but looking for answers that's right there in front of you? Once you had that thought, did you find that there were some things that became available to you, or some of the answers that you were looking for, did you find that they were present for you at all? I hope so. It's an ongoing process, what we do as we grow to become more mindful and conscious about the moments that we have so they can be as powerful as possible. So as we like to begin with our moments of quiet time to relax and breathe and reflect, I'd like to take this moment of reflection and since yesterday was Mother's Day, so I want to honor and respect and acknowledge all the mothers, and whether you have given birth or you have adopted or fostered or you've just shared motherly advice with someone. I want to acknowledge you for that and celebrate you for being that person. You're the mothers of our nation and mothers of creation. So I'm glad to be able to say that to you. So during our moment of reflection, I'd like you to reflect on the women, the mothers that have been influential for you becoming the man that you are today. I saw many posts yesterday of men with their mothers, daughters with their mothers, mothers with their daughters who are now young mothers. Take a minute and reflect on that woman who was influential for you, whether she shared some wisdom, whether she showed you some things by example. Think about that, because we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. And isn't it true that there are so many women who came before us and even now present in our life, either physically or spiritually, have given us a foundation so that we can be the men and the women that we are. So as we have our moments of quiet time and reflection, let's reflect on those shoulders that we stand on. Absolutely, we stand on the shoulders of some giants. So that's the thought of relaxation for today. Add that in with your box breathing, with your conscious awakening and being aware of your senses and all the other tools that you have that work for you. Hopefully, these moments, these little pieces of information to relax will be just what you need to help you make it through a challenging moment that may come. And I guarantee you, some challenge will come to you either suddenly or eventually. It's going to be coming. So, brings us then to our mindful moment, inspired by Carter G. Woodson. And I want to read this verbatim because I don't want to miss any parts of this. And then we'll talk about it for just a second. Carter G. Woodson: if you can control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his action. When you determine what a man shall think, you do not have to concern yourself about what he will do. If you make a man feel that he is inferior, you do not have to compel him to accept an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. If you make a man think that he is justly an outcast, you do not have to order him to the back door. He will go without being told, and if there is no back door, his very nature will demand one. As a man thinks, so he is. So let's look at that from 4 perspectives. The first one is this: are you sure that the thoughts that you are thinking are your own thoughts. We have this assumption that they're ours. And I was talking to a friend yesterday who just traveled to a country that's predominantly communist rule, and they know that they can't think and express exactly whatever they feel. And we were talking about how in this country, many have the illusion that our thinking is our own. But in reality, the way we feel about politics, the way we feel about religion, the way we feel about relationships, the way we feel about work may not really be our own thoughts. Maybe thoughts that has been implanted or planted in us by other people around, by the media, by music, maybe even people who love and care for us, who share their thoughts with us during our infancy, and it became subconscious thoughts of our own. Is it possible that our thoughts are not even ours? Because our life will result from the things that we think. Our beliefs, what are they? That's the first part of it. Do we take the time to even consider what thoughts we're thinking, and are they producing the kind of life that we want to have? So that brings us to the second point. Have you accepted that you have great untapped potential? Or has mediocrity become the norm? What kind of thinking do you have that's producing the life that you're living now? Let me give you a quick example. I was working at an organization, and I had an office that I shared with quite a few other people. Got moved, promoted to a different part of the organization, and they said, listen, you've got your own office, you got a TV with a VCR in it. That's what they had at that time. Go down to the supply room, get whatever you need. So I went down to the supply room, me and another guy who just got moved to that office, to that department, and I asked for, can I get a VHS tape? I'm going to be doing some recording, show some films to some of the clients, things like that. The young man who came right behind me said, let me get a box of those VHS tapes. Here's the moral of the story. We both got exactly what we thought we should have. My experiences, my exposure, the messages that I received previously told me, make do with what you've got. You don't need to ask for extra. Just get exactly what you need, and be thankful that you even have a VCR in your office and that you can get one. Don't try to get too many. His thinking suggested, I need to get extra so I don't have to keep them coming down here. I deserve to have a whole box of these tapes. It's a small example, but it's a clear example of how our thinking produces certain behavior. So how is your thinking working out for you in terms of your career, your job? What messages were you given that causes you to think a certain way about the job that you have, the career that you're pursuing? Oh, I could never be a professional actor. I could never be a professional singer. I could never be the plant manager. I could never run my own company. Or is you thinking something different? What about in terms of relationships? Do you believe that you can have the ideal relationship that you want? Or is there another thinking that says, listen, you like who likes you. Don't try to go out and get these special, you don't need all of that. What kind of messages are you getting in terms of relationships? What about where you live, the home you live in, the kind of car you drive, the way you carry yourself? How has your thinking impacted that? As a man thinks, so he is. Which brings me to point 3. What messages are you passing on to the young men that you are influencing? Whether they're your children or the young men that you work around, or the young girls that will eventually be mothers possibly of young boys and talk to others. What messages are you telling them? Oftentimes the messages that we pass on are messages that we have been told, or experiences that we have had, or things that we have been exposed to. And if that is limited because those around us we see is in that limited place, it's difficult to pass on a message of empowerment and thinking beyond limits if we can't think and feel that way ourselves? And since the eye is a better student than the ear, not just what do you say to that young boy you're raising, that young man that you're working with, that young man that you're a friend of, or the young female that you know, what are you demonstrating by your example? And I'm not suggesting that we have unlimited potential. I am suggesting that we have untapped potential. Possibly we're operating here, and where we could be, what we could have, is up here. Are you willing to tap into some of those potentials that we have by adjusting the thinking that you have? What you feed your mind controls how you think controls how you act. So what are you feeding your mind today? What will you read? What will you watch on television? What will you listen to or follow on Facebook? What kind of messages are you taking in that's producing the kind of thinking that you have, that you call your own, that's producing the outcomes that you have? Does not mean that someone else may have a thinking, an idea that may be beneficial to you. That's possible, and that's acceptable. The greatest ideas don't have to come from you. They may be able to come through you from being open to listen to someone else. But at least be conscious enough to be aware of what you're thinking and where that thinking is actually coming from and what it's producing. That being said, I encourage you to look for opportunities today to examine your own thinking, to relax and reflect on whether you have the kind of relationship that you're truly capable of having, or have you accepted something because of the way that you think that had been passed on to you. Consider looking for an opportunity to inspire someone else to reach their full potential. Others may not do that to you because they may have their own insecurities. And when you're around people who have their own insecurities, it's difficult for them to encourage you to exceed beyond expectations, because it might mean that you might leave them. And because their fear of you leaving them is too great, they will never encourage you to do for yourself what you're capable of. Realize that responsibility is on us. Look for an opportunity to look in the mirror at our own untapped potential. Consider the possibility of, and encourage you to look at the possibilities of what your life would be like if that happens, including finding balance, because it doesn't mean that you just think of your own ideas or other people's ideas, or it doesn't mean that you can be whatever you think, because there are genetic limits, right? So if you're 5'2" and a grown man or woman just thinking that you should be 6'5" is not really realistic. It's outside of the genetic network of possibilities. So we have to be balanced. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a video up later. You guys can check it out about you can do whatever you want to do. That's why I don't say that you have unlimited potential. I do say you have untapped potential. Consider the possibility of tapping into some of your untapped potential. How do you do that? You explore different possibilities. You step outside of the norm. You explore different things. You experiment to see what happens, not just looking, but engaging in different things to see if this might work for you. Try it. Try it. Failing, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. Just that activity may have failed that time. Evaluate whether it works. Consider your possibility of a life that's filled with you having the kind of experiences that you want to have, laying down feeling good about what you did that day, waking up excited about going to work, coming home to a relationship you're happy with. Think about the possibility of that. Lastly, expect and experience the miracles that will expand in your journey as you continue to become more mindful of your moments and living to the full beyond mediocrity. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Pass this on to somebody else. This might be what they need to hear today. If not you, maybe you're already doing it. Somebody in your circle might not be tapping into their untapped potential. Check your own securities and insecurities and inspire those around you, whether they're young boys and girls or older men and women. We all need encouragement. It's never too late to improve ourselves. That being said, I encourage you to travel well until we meet again, and I hope you travel that journey with respect. Till next time.